Thursday marks 20 years since Princess Diana was killed in a car crash inside a Paris tunnel.
For years, people have wondered what really happened to Princess Diana. Some believed it was just a tragic accident, but others thought there was a secret behind it. Now, something unbelievable has happened. Queen Camilla has been sentenced for Diana's death. How did it come to this? What will happen to the royal family now? The truth has finally come out, and nothing will ever be the same again. How Camilla became a suspect. For years, people have whispered, argued, and even shouted about Camilla's role in Diana's tragic story. Was she really just the other woman? Or was there something more? Let's go back to where it all started. Camilla and Charles go way back, before Diana was even in the picture. They met in the early 1970s and fell in love, but for one reason or another, Charles didn't marry her. Instead, he ended up with Diana, a young, beautiful, and innocent woman who seemed perfect for the role of a princess. But there was a problem. Charles never really got over Camilla. Even after marrying Diana, Charles kept Camilla close. Too close. Diana wasn't stupid. She saw what was happening. Imagine being married to a man who secretly loves someone else. That's what Diana had to live with. And she didn't just stay silent about it. In 1995, she sat down for one of the most famous interviews in history. Looking straight at the camera, she said the words that would be remembered forever. There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. Boom. Just like that, the world knew the truth. Diana was suffering, and Camilla was the reason. People turned against Camilla instantly. Even after Diana's tragic death in 1997, Camilla was still seen as the villain. When she finally married Charles in 2005, many people refused to accept her. Some still blame her for Diana's pain, and now, with new evidence coming to light, some believe she played a role in Diana's death itself. But how did she go from being a disliked woman to a murder suspect? Let's talk about it. New evidence that sparked investigation. For years, the case of Diana's death was considered closed. The official story was that she died in a tragic car crash in Paris, caused by a drunk driver trying to escape the paparazzi. But was that really all there was to it? Recently, something changed. New documents were leaked. Documents that, according to insiders, were never meant to be seen by the public. These papers hinted at a bigger plot behind Diana's death, something much darker than an accident. But that's not all. Some former royal staff members, who had stayed quiet for decades, finally spoke up. One witness, whose name hasn't been revealed yet for security reasons, claimed that Diana feared for her life before she died. She allegedly told her closest friends that she believed someone was planning to get rid of her. And guess what? She even wrote a letter predicting that she would die in a car crash. That's chilling, isn't it? But here's where Camilla comes in. According to these leaked documents and witness accounts, there were people within the royal circle who saw Diana as a problem. She was too popular, too powerful, and, most importantly, she wasn't afraid to speak the truth. This made her dangerous, especially to those who wanted Charles and Camilla to eventually be together without any obstacles. Now think about it. If you were Camilla and you knew your path to becoming queen was being blocked by a woman the whole world adored, how would you feel? Some believe Camilla didn't just wait for fate to remove Diana. She helped make it happen. But is that really true? Why the case was reopened? For years, people who questioned Diana's death were dismissed as conspiracy theorists. But when so many people believe something, can they all be wrong? The pressure to reopen the case had been growing for a long time. With the new evidence coming to light, authorities had no choice but to take another look. The big question was, if Diana's death wasn't an accident, then who was behind it? And if there was a plan to eliminate her, how deep did it go? Investigators started pulling old records, re-examining statements, and questioning people who had stayed silent for years. One thing became clear. There were too many loose ends in Diana's death. Too many strange coincidences. And the more they dug, the more Camilla's name started popping up. At first, many thought this was crazy. Why would Camilla of all people be involved? But then, when the leaked documents suggested that Diana had warned about a plot against her, people started listening. Diana had mentioned a woman close to Charles, who might have had a reason to see her gone. Could she have been talking about Camilla? The legal pressure leading to Camilla's involvement. As investigators gathered more evidence, the royal family stayed silent. They didn't want to comment on rumors. But behind palace walls, something was happening. Lawyers were being called. Meetings were being held. There was a real fear that this case could turn into the biggest royal scandal in history. And when the police officially announced they were looking into Camilla as a person of interest, the world went crazy. Imagine that. A queen being investigated for the murder of another queen. It sounds like something out of a movie, but it was really happening. Camilla, the woman who had spent decades trying to win over the British public, was now at the center of a criminal case. Some sources claim that when she first heard about the investigation, she laughed it off. She thought it was ridiculous. But as days went by and more evidence came out, she stopped laughing. She reportedly became paranoid, avoiding public events and staying behind palace doors as much as possible. And then came the breaking point. One of the former royal staff members who had been close to Diana was brought in for questioning. What they said has not been fully revealed yet, but insiders claim it was something huge, something that directly linked Camilla to the case. Whatever it was enough to push investigators to take the next step. Charges and key accusations. The prosecution wasted no time. They made it clear from the very beginning. They believed Camilla was involved in Diana's death. But how? What proof did they have? First, they talked about motive. Why would Camilla want Diana gone? Well, everyone knows about the love triangle. Diana herself had said it. There were 3 of us in this marriage. Camilla was always there in the background, waiting. But was she just waiting, or did she take matters into her own hands? Then came the real bombshell. The prosecution claimed they had evidence linking Camilla to people who might have had a hand in Diana's accident. They brought up secret phone calls, hidden meetings, and even documents that suggested Camilla knew more than she ever admitted. But here's the real kicker. The prosecution hinted that Camilla may have been working with powerful people. People with influence, money, and the ability to make things disappear. Could this mean the royal family itself was involved? Was there a hidden network protecting her all these years? The courtroom was silent. People were hanging on to every word. Was Camilla just a woman in love, or was she part of something much darker? Camilla's defense. Then it was time for Camilla's lawyers to speak. They had one job, to convince everyone that Camilla was innocent. But how do you fight against years of rumors, conspiracy theories, and a public that never really liked you in the first place? Camilla sat still, her face pale, as her lawyers argued that she had nothing to do with Diana's death. They said it was absurd. They pointed out that Camilla wasn't even in the country when Diana died. How could she have planned something so big? Then they played the sympathy card. Camilla was a victim too, they said. The public had hated her for years. She had suffered. She had been called names, blamed for ruining Charles and Diana's marriage, and now she was being accused of something even worse. They painted her as a woman who had simply fallen in love with the wrong man at the wrong time. And then came the biggest moment. Did Camilla herself speak? Did she take the stand? Yes, she did. She stood up, hands shaking slightly, and looked straight at the jury. Her voice cracked as she spoke. I did not kill Diana. I had nothing to do with her death. But then came the twist. She didn't stop there. She turned the blame elsewhere. She suggested that if there was a conspiracy, then she wasn't the one pulling the strings. Someone else was. But who? Was she hinting at the royal family? The government? Someone even bigger? People whispered among themselves. What did she mean? Was she telling the truth? Or was she just trying to save herself? Shocking testimonies. And then, the trial took another shocking turn. Witnesses started coming forward. Some of them had never spoken before. Others had been ignored for years. But now they had the world's attention. One former royal staff member claimed they had seen strange meetings between Camilla and people linked to British intelligence. They had overheard conversations about Diana being a problem. A driver who worked for the royal family revealed something even darker. He claimed that the night Diana died, there was already talk inside the palace about what had happened, before the news had even broken. How could they have known so soon? Unless they had expected it? And then came the biggest shock of all. A former security officer, someone who had worked closely with Charles and Camilla, took the stand. He looked nervous, wiping sweat from his forehead. He took a deep breath and then said it. "I was told to keep quiet. I was told Diana's accident wasn't an accident." Gasps filled the courtroom. Even Camilla's lawyers looked shaken. Who told him to keep quiet? Why? The judge called for order, but the damage was done. The jury had heard everything. The world had heard everything. Final verdict and sentencing. The courtroom waited. Hours passed. People outside were glued to their screens. What would happen? Would Camilla walk free? Or would this be the day justice was finally served? Then, the jury returned. The room held its breath. The judge asked the foreman to read the verdict. Guilty. The word echoed through the room. Camilla blinked as if she hadn't heard it. Guilty? Number that couldn't be right. The judge began to speak. He talked about the seriousness of the crime, the need for justice, and then finally he gave the sentence. Life in prison. The room exploded. Some people cheered, others gasped. Reporters rushed outside to break the news. Queen Camilla, now just Camilla Parker Bowles again, had been sentenced to life. And then came her reaction. At first, she sat frozen. Her face turned red, her hands clenched into fists. Then, suddenly, she stood up and shouted, "This is a setup! I didn't do anything." She turned to Charles, who was sitting nearby, his face pale and expressionless. "Say something. Tell them." But Charles didn't move. He just stared ahead, like he wasn't really there. Camilla tried again. She begged, she screamed, but no one listened. The guards moved in, grabbing her arms. She fought, but it was no use. They led her away, her voice still echoing through the room. And just like that, it was over. But was it? Because as Camilla was taken out, the questions still remained. Was she really the mastermind? Or was she just a piece in a much bigger game? And if she was, then who was still out there, hiding in the shadows? So, what happens next? Camilla has just been sentenced. The entire world is in shock, and now the big question is, where does she go from here? Camilla's fate. Now, let's be real. Camilla is not the kind of person to just sit back and say, "Oh well, I guess I'll go to prison now." She has spent decades climbing her way to the top. She went from being the most hated woman in Britain to the queen of the country. Do you really think she will give up that easily? Camilla still has powerful friends, expensive lawyers, and, most importantly, King Charles himself. He has spent years defending her, making the public accept her, and trying to erase the memory of Princess Diana. Would he just stand there and let her rot in jail? Absolutely not. So, of course, the first thing Camilla will do is appeal. Her lawyers will argue that the trial was unfair, that the evidence wasn't strong enough, and that she was targeted because of who she is. They might even say that the case was nothing but a conspiracy to bring down the monarchy. But here's the problem. Appeals take time. A long, long time. While the process is happening, Camilla will have to wait. And no, she won't be waiting in her fancy palace. She will be in prison. Well, Camilla won't be thrown into just any regular prison. She won't be sitting in a tiny cell with 10 other women. She is still the queen consort, and whether people like it or not, she has special status. This means she will likely be sent to a high-security prison for VIPs, where she will have her own cell, some level of protection, and probably more comfort than an average prisoner. One possible location is HMP Bronzefield, the UK's most high-profile women's prison. It has housed some of the most dangerous female criminals in Britain, but it also has private cells for high-profile inmates. Camilla would likely have limited contact with other prisoners for safety reasons, but make no mistake, prison is still prison. There are no royal servants, no fancy dinners, No designer dresses, just a small room, a metal bed, and a life completely controlled by prison rules. Can you imagine Camilla waking up to the sound of prison guards, eating simple food off a plastic tray, and having no access to luxury? Would she even be able to survive it? And then there's another question. How will the public react to seeing a queen in prison? Would people feel bad for her? Or would they celebrate, saying justice has finally been served for Diana? The monarchy's future. Now, here's where things take a dark turn for the royal family. Because this isn't just about Camilla. This is about King Charles too. Think about it. His wife has just been convicted for being involved in the death of Princess Diana. His entire reputation is now hanging by a thread. People are furious. The media is going crazy. Protests are breaking out in the streets. And the big question on everyone's mind is, can King Charles stay on the throne after this? For years, there were already people who didn't want Charles to be king. Many believed the throne should have gone straight to Prince William after Queen Elizabeth's death. Charles was never as popular as his mother, and now, with this scandal, his rule is in serious danger. The British monarchy survives on public support. If the people lose faith, the system starts to fall apart. And let's be honest, after this trial, how many people will still support him? The Queen was loved because she stayed away from scandals. Charles, on the other hand, is now right in the middle of one of the biggest royal scandals of all time. Some experts believe that he will try to hold on to the throne, hoping the public will eventually move on. But others think he might be forced to step down, either because of public pressure, or even because of a decision made within the royal family itself. And if Charles steps down, who takes over? Prince William. Will this scandal lead to the end of the monarchy? Now, this is the biggest question of them all. Could this be the final nail in the coffin for the British royal family? We have to remember, the monarchy has already been struggling. Younger generations are losing interest. Many people feel like the royal family is outdated, unnecessary, and a waste of taxpayer money. But this could push things over the edge. For decades, people have suspected that Diana's death wasn't an accident. Now, with Camilla's sentencing, many will see this as proof that something dark has always been lurking within the royal family. And when the public loses trust, it's very hard to get it back. Imagine this. Millions of people demanding the monarchy be abolished. Protests outside Buckingham Palace. Governments debating whether to cut off funding to the royals. Could we really see the end of the monarchy in our lifetime? One thing is for sure. After this scandal, the royal family will never be the same again. But now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Camilla deserves this sentence? Will Charles survive the backlash, or is his reign doomed? And most importantly, do you believe this could be the beginning of the end for the British royal family? Let's talk about it in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you don't want to miss the next update on this insane royal scandal, subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know when I drop a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
The palace has just issued this statement.
The courtroom falls silent, then screaming. Queen Camilla, the woman who once walked with grace and power, is no longer calm. Her life sentence has just been announced, and something inside her snaps. She throws off her royal mask, revealing a side of her no one has ever seen. Judges freeze, guards rush forward. People in the room gasp, shocked by what's happening, but Camilla doesn't care. She lashes out, knocking over chairs, shoving anyone who gets too close. Her eyes burn with fury. She shouts at the judge, at the lawyers, at the guards holding her back. This isn't the same queen the world once knew. This is a woman who has lost everything, and she's not going down quietly. What made her lose control? And how did it come to this? Background. How did Camilla end up on trial? No one could have ever imagined that Queen Camilla would one day sit in a courtroom fighting for her life. But here we are. It all started years ago when Camilla finally became queen. Some said she was the woman who stood by King Charles through thick and thin. Others, however, always saw her as the royal family's biggest mistake. After becoming queen, Camilla enjoyed all the power that came with the crown. But with power came greed. At least that's what the prosecutors claimed. Over the years, rumors started floating around. People whispered about Camilla misusing royal funds, lavish parties, expensive jewelry, secret getaways, all funded by money that was meant for the people. The press picked up on this quickly, and the media ran wild with stories of missing funds and secret offshore accounts. As if that wasn't enough, there were also talks about Camilla abusing her power inside the palace. Some former staff came forward, claiming that she treated them horribly. They said she would scream at them, make their lives miserable, and even threaten to get them fired if they didn't obey her every word. For years, these stories were brushed under the rug, but the list of accusations just kept growing. On top of everything, conspiracy theories took over the internet. Some people started believing that Camilla had been plotting her way to the throne for years. There were crazy claims that she had even pushed Princess Diana out of the way to make room for herself. Of course, no one could ever prove that, but the theory stayed alive and kept getting bigger. Slowly, the public began to turn against her. At first, they didn't believe the rumors. But when more and more evidence came out, things changed. People started calling her the evil queen. News channels debated her guilt every night. The royal family tried to stay silent, hoping it would all die down. But it didn't. It only got worse. Finally, after months of investigations, Camilla was put on trial. It was the scandal of the century. Cameras lined up outside the court. Reporters fought for a front-row seat, and the world waited with bated breath to see what would happen next. No one thought it would come to this, but the evidence was too much. There was no turning back now. The verdict: life sentence shocks the world. The courtroom was packed. You could hear a pin drop. Everyone waited for the judge to speak, holding their breath. The jury had made their decision, and now it was time for the final blow. The judge looked right at Camilla, his face stern and serious. "Queen Camilla," he said, "for your crimes against the people, this court sentences you to life in prison." The moment those words left his mouth, the room exploded. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Some people even started whispering to each other, unable to believe what they just heard. Camilla, who had been sitting tall and proud all this time, suddenly went pale. Her mouth dropped open. For the first time, she looked scared, truly scared. She turned her head slowly, looking at the royal family sitting in the front row. King Charles sat frozen, his face blank. Prince William didn't flinch. Some even said he looked relieved, almost as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Kate sat beside him, her face cold, her eyes unreadable. Not a single tear was shed. The media wasted no time. Within minutes, breaking news hit every TV screen. Queen Camilla sentenced to life. Britain stunned. No one had expected it to end like this. But the worst was yet to come. The meltdown. Camilla snaps. As soon as the judge finished speaking, Camilla completely lost control. It was like watching a volcano explode. She shot up from her seat, her face red with rage. "You can't do this to me!" she screamed, her voice cracking. "I am your queen!" The judge tried to stay calm, but Camilla wasn't done. She started pointing at the jury, calling them liars and traitors. "You've all been paid off! This is a setup! A bloody setup!" she yelled. Then she turned her anger toward everyone in the courtroom. She cursed the royal aides sitting nearby, screaming that they had betrayed her. "I made you! I made all of you!" she shrieked. "You ungrateful peasants!" Security guards rushed to stop her, but Camilla wasn't going down quietly. She grabbed whatever she could, a glass of water, papers from the desk, and threw them across the room. One glass shattered near the judge's table. The courtroom was in chaos. Reporters quickly raised their cameras, trying to capture every second of the royal meltdown. "You think you'll get away with this?" Camilla roared. "I will haunt every single one of you. Every single one." It was madness. Total madness. The judge had no choice but to adjourn the court immediately. Guards struggled to hold Camilla back as she kicked and screamed. Later, analysts called it the most unhinged royal moment ever seen. And honestly, they weren't wrong. Who she attacked, targets of her wrath. Camilla's rage knew no limits that day. She went after everyone she could see. But some people felt the heat more than others. First, it was the judge. She pointed her finger right at him and shouted, "You're corrupt! You were paid to do this. You'll burn for this." The judge, of course, stayed quiet, but his face said it all. He knew things had gone way out of control. Then came the royal aides. Camilla called them snakes and traitors. She claimed they were the ones who sold her secrets to the media. "I fed you, clothed you, and this is how you repay me," she screamed. Next, she turned to Prince William and Kate. The entire courtroom went silent as she pointed at them. "You two have always been jealous. You plotted this. You wanted me gone from day one," she accused. Kate didn't react. William simply stared back, cold as ice. But the biggest betrayal, according to Camilla, came from King Charles himself. She faced him with tears and fury in her eyes. "You threw me to the wolves, Charles. After everything I've done for you," she cried. "I made this family what it is." People in the room whispered that this wasn't just anger. It was years of bottled-up hate finally exploding. Old rivalries, hidden secrets, everything spilled out in front of the entire world. Royal family's reaction post-meltdown. Once Camilla was dragged out of the courtroom, the royal family went into full damage control mode. They knew this was bad. Really bad. The palace released a short statement within hours. It said, "Her Majesty's actions were regrettable. The royal family remains committed to the law and the people." Cold. Emotionless. Almost like they had already erased her from their lives. Prince William later spoke to reporters. His words were simple but powerful. The monarchy must move forward. Just like that, he made it clear. Camilla was done, and there was no coming back. Meanwhile, rumors started swirling about King Charles. Some said he broke down in private. Others claimed he hadn't said a word since the sentencing. For a man who loved Camilla more than anyone, this was a nightmare. The media didn't hold back. Headlines screamed, "Queen Camilla's final shame." Newspapers sold out within hours. Polls showed her approval ratings had crashed to the lowest ever recorded for a royal. Camilla had officially become the most hated woman in Britain. What's next? For Camilla, prison life and legacy. With the trial over, the question everyone started asking was, what happens to Camilla now? Her life as queen was over. Now she was just another prisoner. Some papers called her prisoner number 001, the fallen queen. People imagined her sitting in a small prison cell, wearing a gray uniform, eating plain food. No jewels, no palace, just cold, empty walls. From queen to inmate, just like that. Some said Camilla was already planning her next move. Rumors spread that she would write a tell-all book from prison, a book that would expose every secret of the royal family. And you know what? People would buy it. They'd buy it just to know what really happens behind palace doors. There were also talks that she might give interviews from prison. Tabloids were offering millions for just one exclusive. And honestly, who wouldn't want to hear what she has to say? Then there's the question of Charles. Will he divorce her now? Can he even stay married to someone sitting in jail for life? Most experts say the divorce papers are probably already being drafted. One thing is clear. Camilla's royal title is gone. Stripped away. She's no longer queen. She's no longer anything. Just a name that will be remembered for all the wrong reasons. And the damage to the royal family? It's huge. Some say the monarchy may never recover from this. Others believe this is just the beginning of the end. The courtroom may have settled, but the chaos Queen Camilla unleashed will be remembered forever. A fall from power like this is something no one saw coming. Was this the real her all along? Or did the pressure finally break her? One thing is clear. This moment has changed everything.
I can't mimic voices for love or money. I'm completely hopeless at it. I was a really bad actor at school, and
In a stunning development that has sent shockwaves through Buckingham Palace, Tom Parker Bowles, son of Queen Camilla, has been sentenced in a case cloaked in unprecedented secrecy. The ruling, delivered behind closed doors and mysteriously absent from public court records, has resulted in his immediate removal from public life. Palace officials have imposed an extraordinary information blackout, but our sources have uncovered the disturbing reality behind his sudden disappearance. What could the Queen's son have done to warrant such severe consequences? And why has the royal family gone to extreme lengths to keep it hidden? Stay tuned, because this revelation will forever change how you view the British monarchy. The Secret Tribunal. On what appeared to be an ordinary Tuesday morning, Tom Parker Bowles arrived at a nondescript government building in London's diplomatic quarter. Unlike the high-profile court appearances of celebrities or politicians, there were no press photographers, no waiting crowds, just an unmarked entrance guarded by individuals who carried no visible identification, but moved with unmistakable military precision. Dressed in a conservative gray suit with no distinctive features, Tom was escorted through a private entrance and vanished from public view. A food critic and author who had carefully balanced his royal connections with an independent career, his expression betrayed no emotion as the doors closed behind him. Inside awaited what one source described as a tribunal rather than a court. The small windowless room contained only essential personnel. A panel of 3 judges with specialized security clearance, legal representatives who identified themselves only by last name, and a defense team that our sources claim had been appointed rather than selected by Tom himself. This wasn't a legal proceeding as the public would understand it, revealed a source with connections to diplomatic security protocols. This was risk containment operating under the thinnest veneer of judicial process. The charges, while never formally announced, allegedly centered around unauthorized communications with foreign entities, specifically, individuals connected to both international media organizations and foreign intelligence services. According to our sources, Tom had been under surveillance for months after certain patterns of communication raised red flags within royal security circles. It began with his legitimate food writing contacts, explained a former colleague who requested anonymity. But somewhere along the line, he began exchanging information that went far beyond culinary matters. Information about palace operations, security protocols, and most damaging of all, private communications between senior royals regarding matters of state. What made this case particularly sensitive was the nature of the information involved. Unlike typical royal scandals centered around personal indiscretions, the material Tom allegedly shared touched on the monarchy's relationship with government, the constitutional gray area where royal influence intersects with political power. During the 7-hour proceeding, Tom reportedly maintained the composed demeanor that had characterized his public life. He spoke only when directly addressed by the tribunal, neither confirming nor denying specific allegations. Those present described his bearing as resigned rather than defiant, the demeanor of someone who understood the institutional machinery he faced. The ruling, when delivered late that afternoon, was extraordinary in both scope and severity. While not termed imprisonment in any conventional sense, the sentence mandated Tom's immediate sequestration at an undisclosed location, with no access to communication devices, publication platforms, or unapproved visitors. The official terminology, protective isolation for reasons of national security, barely concealed the reality: permanent removal from public life. As Tom was escorted from the room through a secure exit, he reportedly made a single statement to the senior security official overseeing the operation: "Tell my mother I understand the necessity." This phrase, cryptic to those unfamiliar with royal dynamics, has been interpreted by insiders as acknowledgement of the monarchy's ultimate priority: institutional survival above individual interests, even when family is involved. Within hours, he had been transported from London via military aircraft, his destination known only to a handful of officials with the highest security clearances. The containment operation. The palace's official statement, released the following morning, made no reference to any proceedings. It simply announced that Tom Parker Bowles would be stepping back from public duties indefinitely to address private health matters and requested privacy. The brevity and vagueness only intensified speculation among royal observers. Behind the scenes, an elaborate operation was already underway, not just to manage Tom's physical removal, but to systematically erase evidence of his activities. Teams with specialized training in digital forensics simultaneously accessed his London apartment, office, and country home. Computers were seized, mobile devices confiscated, and physical documents removed. But the operation extended far beyond simple evidence gathering. This wasn't just about collecting materials, revealed a source with knowledge of security protocols. This was about eliminating all digital footprints, scrubbing communication records, and creating an alternative narrative about his absence that could withstand public scrutiny. Most telling was the treatment of his professional workspace. According to witnesses, the office where Tom wrote his food columns and books was not simply searched, but methodically dismantled. Digital storage devices were removed. Reference materials were cataloged and transported to secure facilities. Even seemingly innocuous items like notebooks and appointment calendars were treated as sensitive materials requiring special handling. The thoroughness suggested not just concern about what he might have already shared, but fear about what channels of communication he might have established that remained undiscovered. There was serious concern about dead drops, scheduled information releases, or material already positioned with publishers overseas, explained a former intelligence officer familiar with such operations. When someone with his connections commits to sharing sensitive information, the ripple effects can continue long after they've been contained. This fear drove the next phase of the operation, identifying and neutralizing potential associates. Editors who had worked with Tom found themselves subject to unusual scrutiny. Publishers reported subtle pressure to delay or cancel projects involving him. The pattern revealed a coordinated effort to isolate anyone who might have served as his conduit to the wider world. Digital traces began disappearing as well. His social media accounts were either suspended or suddenly managed with notably different content and tone. Archives of television appearances where he had discussed royal connections became mysteriously unavailable on streaming platforms. Even photographs in which he appeared at royal-adjacent events were quietly removed from official sources and media libraries. Most concerning to those tracking the situation was the treatment of his published work. His most recent food columns disappeared from publication archives. Bookstores reported receiving requests to return unsold copies of his latest cookbook for a corrected edition that never arrived. The systematic removal of his professional output suggested concerns that extended beyond personal indiscretion to something embedded in his public work. The concern wasn't just what he knew, but how he might have encoded that knowledge in his published writing, suggested a literary analyst who had studied similar cases of writers under government scrutiny in other countries. Food writing provides remarkable cover for transmitting information through seemingly innocent references. Ingredients can be code names. Preparation techniques can signify methods of operation. Restaurant locations can indicate meeting points. The royal family fractures. Behind palace walls, Tom's sentence reportedly created the most significant family crisis since Prince Andrew's fall from grace. Queen Camilla, caught between maternal instinct and institutional duty, was described by insiders as outwardly stoic, but inwardly devastated. According to sources familiar with palace operations, she was informed of the action against her son only hours before it occurred, presented not as a request for her approval, but as a security necessity already in motion. Camilla was effectively told, rather than consulted, said one palace source. This wasn't a mother being asked about her son's fate. This was a queen being briefed on an operation affecting the monarchy's security. King Charles, meanwhile, allegedly maintained a more detached position. Sources suggest he viewed Tom's actions through an institutional lens rather than a personal one, as a security breach requiring containment rather than a family matter requiring compassion. This perspective has reportedly created tension in the royal marriage, with moments of strained silence replacing their usually warm rapport. The king sees monarchy as his life's purpose, explained a longtime royal advisor. Threats to its stability override personal considerations, even when family is involved. Camilla hasn't yet developed that institutional callousness that royal life eventually demands. Prince William has reportedly supported the action, viewing it as regrettable but necessary for protecting the monarchy's future. According to palace insiders, he was among those briefed on specific communications intercepted from Tom and recognized their potential to undermine public confidence in royal neutrality on political matters, a cornerstone of the modern monarchy's survival. Most surprisingly, Princess Anne, known for her dedication to duty and protocol, has allegedly questioned the handling of the situation. Sources claim she has expressed concern about the precedent of removing a royal-adjacent figure through extrajudicial means, suggesting that, Once we operate outside the law, we undermine the very system we claim to uphold. For Tom's sister, Laura Lopes, the situation has allegedly triggered profound distress. Unlike her brother, Laura has maintained an intensely private life despite her royal connections. Sources close to her family report that she has made repeated requests to contact her brother, all of which have been denied citing security protocols. Laura is essentially being told that any attempt to reach her brother could implicate her as well, revealed one source. It's a cruel but effective method of ensuring family compliance. The implicit threat that concern could be interpreted as complicity. For Queen Camilla herself, the situation has created an impossible position. Sources describe a woman torn between institutional obligation and maternal anguish, permitted no direct communication with her son since the sentencing. All information about his welfare and circumstances comes through official briefings provided by the same security apparatus that engineered his removal. In public, she performs flawlessly, noted one senior household member. In private, the strain shows in small ways. Moments of distraction, unusual irritability, the occasional canceled engagement citing mild indisposition. She's grieving while having to pretend nothing significant has happened.
Do you think Mrs. Parker Bowles was a factor in the breakdown of your marriage?
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
What if the royal love story we thought we knew was hiding dark secrets? A shocking discovery has surfaced. Queen Camilla's private diary, rumored to contain explosive details about King Charles. From secret scandals to untold truths about their controversial romance. This diary could change everything we know about the British monarchy. What terrifying revelations could it hold?
Did you find it harrowing?
I did find it, and I think what made it so readable was your writing, your prose, your descriptions of nature.
Buckle up, because this royal drama is about to get even more scandalous. Stay tuned for the jaw-dropping details. Charles and Camilla first meet, 1970. It was the summer of 1970 when Prince Charles, the future King of England, met Camilla Shand for the very first time. The encounter happened at a polo match in Windsor Great Park, a setting that couldn't have been more fitting for a royal romance to begin. The air was filled with excitement, horses galloping, and laughter echoing across the field. Among the crowd stood Camilla, a confident and witty young woman who would soon capture the attention of the young prince. As the story goes, their meeting wasn't just casual, it was electric. Charles was immediately drawn to Camilla's charm and humor. Unlike many others in royal circles, Camilla didn't treat Charles as just a prince. She spoke to him like a regular person, and her down-to-earth personality made her stand out. She reportedly broke the ice with a cheeky joke that caught Charles off guard. Camilla reminded him that their great-grandmothers had both been mistresses to the same king. Her boldness left Charles both amused and intrigued, and the two hit it off instantly. Camilla, who was 23 at the time, wasn't from a royal family, but she came from an aristocratic background. She had grown up around horses, countryside parties, and the kind of life that made her comfortable in the royal world. Charles, on the other hand, was just starting to step into his role as the Prince of Wales, balancing the weight of royal duties with his personal desires. Meeting Camilla felt like a breath of fresh air for him. Over the next few months, Charles and Camilla spent more time together, and their relationship began to blossom. They shared a love for the countryside, polo, and good conversation. Camilla had a way of making Charles feel at ease, something he deeply valued as the pressures of royal life surrounded him. Friends of the couple at the time said their chemistry was undeniable, but their love story hit its first obstacle not long after it began. Charles's royal duties called him away to serve in the Royal Navy, and their relationship was put on hold. While Charles was away, Camilla rekindled her romance with Andrew Parker Bowles, whom she would later marry. Though their love story didn't take off at the time, that first meeting in 1970 set the stage for decades of connection, heartbreak, and eventual reconciliation. It was the beginning of a royal relationship that would go on to shape history. Camilla marries Andrew Parker Bowles, 1973. The year was 1973, and the British social scene was buzzing with excitement. Camilla Shand, a young woman with a sharp wit and a warm personality, was set to marry Andrew Parker Bowles, a handsome and charming officer in the British Army. Their wedding was the talk of the town, and it became one of the most glamorous social events of the year. But behind the smiles and celebration, there was an untold story of love, heartbreak, and what might have been. Camilla and Andrew had been in an on-again, off-again relationship for several years. Andrew, who was known for his good looks and charisma, had many admirers, and their relationship wasn't always smooth. Despite the ups and downs, Camilla seemed deeply taken with him. She was ready to settle down and start a family, and Andrew appeared to be the perfect match for her. However, what many didn't know at the time was that another man, Prince Charles, had already captured Camilla's heart just a few years earlier. Prince Charles and Camilla had met in 1970, and their connection was undeniable. They shared a bond that was rare and unique, but timing was not on their side. Charles's royal duties required him to join the Royal Navy, which meant he had to leave Camilla behind. In his absence, Camilla rekindled her romance with Andrew, and their relationship grew stronger. When Charles returned, it was too late. Camilla and Andrew's engagement had already been announced. On July 4th, 1973, Camilla and Andrew tied the knot in a grand ceremony at the Guards Chapel in London. The wedding was attended by high society, including members of the royal family. Camilla looked radiant in her white dress, smiling as she walked down the aisle. From the outside, it seemed like a perfect fairy tale. However, those close to Camilla knew that Charles was never far from her thoughts. Despite marrying Andrew, Camilla and Charles remained friends. They stayed in touch, and their bond remained strong even as they built separate lives. Camilla and Andrew went on to have 2 children, Tom and Laura, but their marriage was far from perfect. Charles and Camilla's affair resumes. The story of Prince Charles and Camilla Shand had always been complicated, but by the mid-1980s it took an explosive turn. Although Camilla had married Andrew Parker Bowles in 1973, and Charles had tied the knot with Lady Diana Spencer in 1981, the connection between Charles and Camilla never truly disappeared. Behind the grand royal events and public appearances, their bond remained strong, and by 1986, their affair had quietly resumed. At this point, Charles and Diana's marriage was already struggling. What had started as a fairy tale union was now filled with tension, misunderstandings, and unhappiness. Diana was aware of Charles's lingering feelings for Camilla, which only added to the cracks in their relationship. Charles, feeling increasingly distant from Diana, found comfort in the arms of the woman he had always turned to, Camilla. Their rekindled affair wasn't something that happened overnight. It began subtly, with Charles and Camilla spending more time together at social events and private gatherings. Camilla, who was still married to Andrew Parker Bowles, was a source of emotional support for Charles. She understood the pressures of his royal life in a way that Diana, still young and inexperienced at the time, struggled to grasp. For Charles, Camilla was more than just an old flame. She was a confidant, a friend, and someone he could rely on. As their relationship deepened, rumors of their affair began to spread. Friends and aides close to the couple noticed their growing closeness, and whispers about their meetings started to reach the public. Diana herself confronted Charles about his relationship with Camilla. The affair caused a ripple effect of pain and scandal. Diana's emotional struggles became more apparent, and her marriage to Charles continued to unravel. Meanwhile, Camilla faced her own challenges, as her relationship with Andrew Parker Bowles also began to break down. By the early 1990s, the affair was no longer a secret, and the media frenzy surrounding it became relentless. Looking back, the resumption of Charles and Camilla's affair in 1986 marked a turning point in the history of the British monarchy. It not only led to the eventual collapse of 2 marriages, but it also set the stage for decades of public and private drama. Their love, though controversial, would later endure and reshape the royal family in ways no one could have imagined. Charles marries Diana, 1981. It was July 29, 1981, when the world witnessed what seemed like the perfect fairy tale. Prince Charles, heir to the British throne, married Lady Diana Spencer in a grand ceremony that captured the hearts of millions. With over 750 million people watching on television worldwide, it was called the Wedding of the Century. The union between the shy 20-year-old Diana and the 32-year-old prince appeared magical. But beneath the surface, the story was far more complicated. The wedding itself was nothing short of spectacular. St. Paul's Cathedral, chosen for its larger capacity compared to Westminster Abbey, was packed with royals, dignitaries, and celebrities. Diana arrived in a glass carriage, wearing a stunning ivory silk gown with a 25-foot train, designed by David and Elizabeth Emanuel. The sight of her stepping out of the carriage became one of the most iconic images in royal history. The young bride looked every bit the princess she was about to become, and the crowd erupted in cheers as she made her way down the aisle. Charles, dressed in his naval uniform, waited at the altar, appearing calm and composed. The couple exchanged vows, though there were small, telling signs of nerves. Diana famously mixed up Charles's name during the ceremony, calling him Philip Charles Arthur George instead of Charles Philip Arthur George. It was a minor mistake, but it hinted at the underlying stress of the day. From the outside, everything seemed perfect. The streets of London were lined with thousands of well-wishers waving flags, and the reception was a grand affair. The couple's kiss on the balcony of Buckingham Palace became a defining moment, replayed countless times in the media. Diana, with her natural charm and beauty, quickly won over the public, earning her title as the People's Princess. However, while the world celebrated, the marriage itself was built on shaky ground. Charles and Diana had only met 12 times before getting engaged. Their relationship lacked a deep emotional connection, and Charles's lingering feelings for his former flame, Camilla Parker Bowles, cast a shadow over their union. Diana, though smitten with Charles, would later reveal how lonely and isolated she felt. Diana confronts Camilla about the affair. By the late 1980s, Princess Diana could no longer ignore the growing distance between her and Prince Charles. Whispers of an ongoing secret between Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles had turned into louder rumors. Though Diana had always sensed that Charles's heart belonged to someone else, she decided to face the situation head-on. In 1989, she gathered the courage to confront Camilla at a birthday party, an event that would become legendary in royal history. Many well-known figures had gathered for a celebration in London, unaware that the evening would take a dramatic turn. The party was held for Camilla's sister, but the happy occasion had a tense undertone. Diana, feeling increasingly isolated and hurt, chose this moment to speak directly to the woman she believed was threatening her marriage. It was a small gathering, which made it easier for Diana to corner Camilla in a quiet corner, away from the main party. Diana approached Camilla with determination, her heart pounding. Despite her nerves, she spoke calmly, but firmly. She famously said, "I know what's going on. Don't treat me like I'm stupid." People who later heard about this confrontation often wondered how Camilla reacted to being challenged by the Princess of Wales. According to Diana's own accounts, Camilla tried to maintain her composure, but the tension in the air was undeniable. The conversation that followed was brief but powerful. Diana made it clear she wanted no secrets in her marriage, and that she deserved honesty from both Charles and Camilla. In some reports, Camilla replied that Diana had everything she could want: fame, beauty, and 2 beautiful sons. Diana, however, saw these words as dismissive and hurtful, feeling that Camilla was undermining her emotional needs. This confrontation was a key moment in Diana's life. Though she didn't end the affair that very night, she took a brave step by standing up for herself and her children. The media would later learn of this face-to-face meeting, adding more fuel to the already intense coverage of the royal marriage. For Diana, it was a moment of releasing pent-up anger and sadness. In the years that followed, the tension between Diana, Charles, and Camilla grew stronger, eventually leading to tabloid headlines around the world. Yet, this single evening at a birthday party remained a turning point. Diana's confrontation showed her willingness to fight for her dignity, even if it meant challenging the very traditions and expectations that had long defined royal life. Charles and Diana live separate lives, 1986. Charles and Diana's marriage started like a fairy tale, but by 1986, the cracks were impossible to ignore. Instead of sharing a warm and loving bond, the Prince and Princess of Wales seemed more like strangers under the same roof. Friends, staff, and even the public noticed that the couple was drifting apart. The magic of their 1981 wedding was gone, replaced by long periods of living separate lives both in and out of the palace. At the time, Diana was a global icon. Her warmth and compassion shone during royal events, charity visits, and public engagements. People adored her for her natural charm and stylish outfits. However, behind the scenes, she felt lonely and misunderstood. Charles, meanwhile, continued his royal duties and focused on his private interests, like polo and gardening. He spent more time in the countryside, enjoying peaceful retreats and the company of close friends. Their busy schedules offered an easy cover for how little time they actually spent together. Though both tried to keep up appearances for the sake of tradition and their roles, tensions were growing. Rumors about Diana's unhappiness and Charles's connection with Camilla Parker Bowles only added more strain. Diana's heartfelt attempts to find emotional support from Charles often went unanswered, and Charles, feeling pressured by royal expectations, withdrew even further. As a result, the two formed separate routines, rarely sharing intimate moments or genuine conversations. Even at public events, keen observers could sense the distance between them.